All right, thanks for joining us for this session of Life in London. What we're really hoping to do in a short period of time is to get you acquainted with a lot of the things London offers to you, but also discounts and banking, transport, the rest of it, to help you make the most of your time while you're here. So we thought we'd start off with some beautiful places in London. I'm sure that you have seen photos of Tower Bridge and of the Houses of Parliament, and of course of the Clock Tower down by the riverside. But there's so much more to see in London and so much more to do if you are interested in exploring. So our team has put together some photos of their favorite places. And I'm just going to go through a couple of them, and then I'll hand over to Elizabeth to talk about the places that she loves too. Up in the top left corner is Camden, and Camden is a great place to go market shopping. It's also a great place to listen to live music. It's very lively and often filled with people on the weekends, but super colorful and interesting. It's one of the great neighborhoods of London. Just down below that is Richmond. You are, of course, attending Richmond American University in London, but we are now in Chiswick. We used to be in Richmond. Richmond was made famous not so long ago by an Apple TV series called Ted Lasso. So if you have seen that, you have probably seen the picture that you see in the bottom of your screen. Richmond is a really beautiful historic borough as well. It's very close to the river and has an old ruins of an old palace where royalty used to live. So, a really great place to spend an afternoon, sit on the green, watch some cricket when the weather's a bit nicer. In the middle there is Greenwich, and you will know Greenwich probably from Greenwich Mean Time. There is a meridian that runs through Greenwich that you can look at and take a picture with, sit on. There's also a really beautiful observatory that you can go to in the evening and a gorgeous park. Greenwich also has a lovely market and some beautiful pubs along the riverside if you want to visit there. And one of the greatest places to see views into London is Parliament Hill. Lots of people go up there during Guy Fawkes Night, which is in the fall, to watch the fireworks, and people often go there at New Year's as well. Also, a great place for a picnic when the weather's a bit nicer. But I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth for the last two.
Yes, so a couple of my favorite places in London are on the south side of the river. I used to live in northeast London, so it was a little bit of a trek to get to the south, but totally worth it because there's a lot to explore there. Lots of cultural activities, so particularly at the South Bank. South Bank is a big arts and culture area. But it's also just a great place to hang out with people because it's pretty central and it's really well connected on the tube. You can get to South Bank and just walk along the river, especially when the weather is nice. So that's where the London Eye is, of course, which you might be familiar with, but also the South Bank Centre and the National Theatre, as well as the Globe, which are all massive cultural centers for performing arts. There's also the BFI, which is the British Film Institute. So if you're a big fan of cinema, it's definitely a good place to check out. And then Brixton, just below that, in that photo is of Brixton Market, is a great place for foodies. There's a lot of great food in London, and there are probably a lot of food markets you're familiar with, like Borough Market. But Brixton Market is one of the biggest international food centers in London. So if you're keen to try some new food, especially Jamaican or other Caribbean cuisines, absolutely get yourself to Brixton Market. It's a very vibrant part of London, and definitely worth a day out, especially if the weather's maybe a bit colder and you need some inside time with some nice food. Definitely recommend.
Great, thank you. Um, so what we're going to cover today is a lot. We'll talk to you a little bit about the student support team here at Richmond. These are the people that you'll see in the Student Hub daily. We'll also talk about the campus here in Chiswick in West London. Attendance and engagement, of course, are an important part of your course at Richmond, and we want to make sure you're up to date on that. Hopefully, you have managed to log into your IT accounts into Outlook, Blackboard, the Rio student portal. but we'll also tell you about a few more apps that may be of interest to you. We will talk a little bit about traveling through London and how to get discounted transport and travel. We'll talk about bank accounts, mobile phones, registering with our National Health Service so you can access medical care. Working in the UK, which you may have the option to do if you're on a student route visa, your visa obligations as a student, and the resources on campus. And every Monday, we send an email out called This Week at Richmond, which links you to lots of events and activities that we're hosting both on campus and further afield in London. We also have some helpful tips for students on there. We highlight a campus hero of the week and lots more. So have a look for that in your email. But let's start with the student team. And I'm going to again hand over to Elizabeth.
Yes, so we've got a massive team in student affairs, and this slide shows you people who are specifically focused on student support. So that's me up in the right-hand corner. My name, of course, is Elizabeth, and I'm the head of student support and access. So what that mostly means is that I look after anything that has to do with student engagement, and coordinating the support of the other three people on the slide. So Alice, who's in the top left, is our student accessibility officer, and she looks after support plans. So in-classroom support, maybe for people who have special educational needs or a disability. She's definitely the person to talk to about that. Just below Alice is Beth, and Beth is our student health and well-being officer. So if you have any sort of long-term condition or even an acute sickness or something that comes up while you're in London, she can talk through all the different kind of resources that are available to you, help you get set up with the NHS, or find other health resources in your local area. And she's also here for your overall well-being, so everything to do with mental health as well, and maybe how to just stay well overall while you're in London and pursuing your studies here. Then, last but not, very much not least, Ian is our student accommodation and community support officer. So he looks after our residences. We have a partnership with a residence called called the Stay Club in North Acton. That's a student accommodation that we're partnered with. So some of you might be living there. But he can also answer general questions about renting in London. And he looks after all of our clubs and societies. So that's the community support bit. So if you're curious about how you can engage with our community here at Richmond, you can have a chat with Ian.
Great. Thanks, Elizabeth. And the other part of the team is our careers and internships team. There's two people there, Ragad and Maria, who support students with any questions they may have about navigating career services and support. Ragad is our internship officer. So if you do decide to do an internship as part of your course, generally that would be in your third or final year. Ragad can help you source an internship and prepare you for that. Maria offers career support from day one. She can look at a CV. She can help you with help you prepare for an interview or help you search for roles. Maria is also a great person to talk to about our Richmond Leadership Academy, which is our employability awards, which we'll be highlighting at Honors Night later this semester. Catherine and Chi are our UKVI compliance team. They have lots of expertise in student route visas and in visitor visas for students coming to the UK who are international. So any questions or advice you'd like to get about your student visa, they're great people to talk to. Jason, who is there on the right, is our head of student financial assistance. Jason manages our scholarship program and also works with students who have US federal loans and Student Finance England support. Jason is also a great person to talk to if you find yourself suddenly in financial need. The university does have emergency support and hardship support for any students really struggling. And my name's Allison. I support the whole team here in Student Affairs. I'm in the hub quite often, and I think of myself as a generalist. I should be able to answer a lot of questions, but I do rely on my team for their expertise. So you can find us right there in the Student Hub, right in the center of reception. Alongside us in Student Affairs, you'll also find some support in registry services, in student finance, and in IT. So if you walk into the Student Hub and you've got a question about registration and maybe a question about a student Oyster card, you can get it all done in the same place with two different teams. When you walk into the hub, we have a friendly student sitting at our desk, welcoming people, and they'll help you navigate how to get the best resources out of the student hub. They may also help you book an appointment if it gets really busy in there, or they might be able to answer a simple question that you have about services. So do come and see us. Our campus, as you probably know by now, is in Building 12 at Chiswick Park. There are 12 buildings in Chiswick Park, and we are building number 12. Our entrance is not the main entrance, however. It is just on the side of the building facing Chiswick High Road, and that's our dedicated student entrance. On site, of course, you'll find that student hub, which I just mentioned. You'll find lots of study space. You'll find a cafe with some discounted food for community members. All of your classrooms are on the ground floor. Occasionally, we have students use the floor up for classrooms, and if you do need to access that, come and talk to us. You'll also find computer labs and a library tucked away in the corner of the building. There is lots of space here, but it is condensed. And so if you find yourself struggling for a study space, you can book those in advance. You can also come into the hub and potentially use one of our rooms during less busy times. All right, so I mentioned classroom attendance and engagement. Of course, your main priority in coming here to the UK is to attend a course, and hopefully you've chosen one that you love, which will make you want to attend a little more often. We do operate a strict attendance policy at Richmond. We expect that students will come to class every day. If you find yourself unable to come due to illness or another sensible reason like that, please do let us know. I think it's also important to let your instructors know because we're such a small place, they will be looking for you and they will know you by name. If you are unable to attend over a longer period of time, there may be consequences to your progress in the course, and there may be consequences to your visa. So the best advice I can give you is to keep up to date and let us know what's happening with you. If you're ill and you need support, definitely send us a message, and we'll try to support you as much as we can. All right. I hope you have signed into IT accounts already. We sent out this information a few times in advance of orientation. But if you haven't, here is some helpful information about how to do this. Your gateway to all of your university accounts is Outlook, and that is your email, but it's also your access to Office 365, which gives you Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and all the rest of it. So you go to outlook.office.com. Your username is your student ID number at richmond.ac.uk, and your student ID number is the one that starts with 3 zeros and follows. Your password for the first time you log in will be Richmond with a capital R, and then your birth date in the 6-digit format that you see there, day, month, year. Once you input that, you will immediately be asked to change your password, and that password will follow you through the other platforms that you will be able to log into after that. So Blackboard is our virtual learning environment, which you'll be using every day on your courses at Richmond. And you can access that using your student ID number and your network password. The Rio portal is our student portal in which you can see your registration, your finances, your address, all of your personal details. And again, you can access that using your student ID number and your network password. If for some reason you're unable to access any of those platforms, and it does happen occasionally, come and talk to our IT staff, or you can email them from a private email account at itteam@richmond.ac.uk. So I mentioned beyond our platforms, there are also a couple of apps that may be of interest to you. One is a careers app, and it's called Handshake. What Handshake does is it gives you early careers access to employers. They host a number of virtual and in-person events that you can attend when you're trying to potentially navigate your career pathway. You can also look at their job board, which offers part-time jobs, voluntary service, and internships. And you can start to build a profile and network with others. The profile is very much like what you might see on LinkedIn. It will eventually become a CV, but it in the early stages is really about your interests and the things that you'd like to see and do on Handshake. It's a totally free app. We do ask you to sign up using your university email account, not your personal email, and you'll get a verification code sent to your email to activate. Elizabeth, do you want to talk a little bit about Talk Campus?
Yeah, definitely. So Talk Campus is another one of those apps that we definitely encourage you to download sooner rather than later because the sooner you engage with it, the sooner it can support you. Talk Campus offers you the opportunity to talk to other students. The way it's set up is almost like Reddit. There are lots of different threads that you can chat within, comment within, or make your own post within. And it's all about supporting well-being and mental health. The main idea behind Talk Campus is that when we talk about what we're going through, we feel better. So you can be supported by other peers who are going through similar things. And likewise, you can support other students by engaging in those different threads. It's offered in now actually over 26 different languages, and it now also hosts live translation. So even if the app doesn't have support in one of those, I think it's now 31 languages, you can translate the entire app into more than 100 languages now. So you can talk in whatever language feels best for you to talk about your mental health in. You can download it. It's also available as a desktop version. Absolutely recommend downloading it ahead of time and getting set up because oftentimes, if we're feeling a little bit low, making that jump to download an app and create a login and all that stuff can feel more difficult. So definitely do it up at the top and get started and engage with that community.
Great, thank you. So, questions we get asked very often at student orientation and sometimes before are about discounted travel in London and how to travel around London. If you've looked at a tube map, you've probably seen lots of spaghetti all over it in different colors, and you're thinking, how will I ever understand this? You will, but it may take a little while to start to come to grips with it. So one of the things you can do is travel on an Oyster card, which is the blue card you see right there on the left. This doesn't cost you anything. There's a deposit of £5 to get the card, and you can use it as a pay as you go. If you have a bank card that doesn't cost you international charges, it's exactly the same price. Because whenever you use London Transport, you have to tap in and usually tap out, except on a bus. And the cost of the daily travel is the same whether you're using a banking card or an Oyster. You do qualify as a full-time student for a photo card, which offers you 30% off of weekly and monthly travel. So it won't help you on the daily travel, but it will help you if you know that you are traveling maybe 3 or 4 times a week, or if you're traveling 2 to 3 times during peak hours. You can apply for this by creating a web account on the TfL website, uploading a digital photo, and paying an application fee. And then the card will come to you, and you can top it up and add either weekly or monthly passes per zone as you wish. So this is the tube map I mentioned. The red circle down there on the left shows Gunnersbury Station, which is just across from the campus. We are in Zone 3. If you're living with us in State Club North Acton, you'll see Acton Central up there, just a couple of stops up on the yellow striped line there. So it's also in Zone 3. If you are traveling just back and forth from State Club to Gunnersbury, The good news is it'll be a lot less expensive than traveling into central London because you're staying in the same zone. But a lot of students, of course, will want to travel in and see some of those sites that Elizabeth and I mentioned earlier in the presentation, and we encourage you to do that. So if you're traveling from Gunnersbury, you can easily get into Zone 1, and you can see that right in the center where the white part of the map is. You can, on a travel pass, you can travel by tube, by train, by tram, by bus, and even by boat. And if you keep it all in the zones that you've paid for, you don't incur any extra costs. Um, it does, as I said, look a bit overwhelming, I'm sure. But one of the helpful things you can do right now is to download an app called Citymapper. And what Citymapper does is allows you to plan a journey from one place to another and look at alternatives, alternative travel. So you can say, I'd like to travel from Gunnersbury to Hyde Park Corner using only buses, or traveling by tube or train, or traveling at a specific hour. If there are closures, and there are sometimes in London, closures to trains and tubes and other things, it'll help you navigate that as well. Elizabeth, I know you're a great advocate of Citymapper. Anything else you want to add there?
I think you covered it. I would say that just to emphasize, Allison, what you said about closures. Sometimes there are closures, but even more often there are just random delays. London is a really busy city, and the tube is a great system. But every once in a while there are minor delays, which can just be stressful if you're trying to make it to class on time. And Citymapper is better at alerting you to those delays than other apps like Apple Maps or Google Maps, and even sometimes better than TfL's own app, TfL Go. So I would just absolutely highlight that, especially when you're just getting to know London's transport system. Citymapper is a really great tool to help you get familiar and sort of push through any of those sort of bumps in the road as you get used to the transport system here in London.
Great, thank you. And don't feel concerned about asking for directions, particularly if you're at a tube or a train station. The people that are dressed in uniform are there to help you. So if you are confused or unsure about the best way to go, they can also help. There may come a time when you need a letter request, and we write letters for students to help them confirm their enrollment, to help them confirm an address, to ensure that they are eligible to work part-time or full-time outside of term time. And these all come into us daily through a Microsoft form. I've put a QR code there to help you find that, but you can also come into the Student Hub and scan it as well. We ask that you give us 2 working days to complete a letter, but we often have them done before that. In most cases, you would need a letter, for example, to apply for a bank account, to apply for a national insurance number, which will help you gain access to work, to maybe set up a mobile phone with a monthly credited account, maybe to rent property. There may be a number of different reasons why you need that letter. But if you come in and talk to us, if you're unsure whether you need it or not, we can help. So I mentioned bank accounts. Many of our students do opt to open UK bank accounts, really because if you intend to work in the UK, you need a bank account in which to put the money that you earn. I think all employers will pay by direct deposit into an account. So you will need a UK bank account in order to do that. You can open a bank account with your identity documents, so that's with your passport and the share code for your student visa. You may also be required to show an enrollment letter, which will show proof of term time, so when your class starts and when your class ends during the term, but also your start date of enrollment and your potential graduation date. And then they'll also want to see your permanent address if you are an international student. So not only where you're living locally in London, but your home address, which you would consider permanent outside of the UK. Some of our students decide to sign on to open bank accounts with a high street bank, and HSBC is really our closest local branch bank. which is just down on Chiswick High Road. But there are many others. All of them offer student accounts. So the best thing to do is to look online about what the bank will offer you. I know recently Santander was offering rail passes for students to sign up with them. So there may be some incentives to sign up with a specific bank. If you choose not to go with a high street bank and you opt for an online only bank, there's lots to choose from. The three biggest players in London are Monzo, Starling, and Revolut, but there are certainly others. Again, I would look into those and see what they're offering you and see if it's the right fit for you. It is much easier, as you would expect, to sign up to an online bank than it is to sign up for a high street bank. But once you're signed up, that bank account is yours as long as you're in the UK and potentially when you're not in the UK. So something to consider what you want long term. If you're here as a visitor, we often encourage students to have a look at currency cards, and these will help you with keeping the currency conversion rate lower. One of the ones that a lot of US students use is a card called WISE. But regardless of all of this, really important to talk to your home bank if you are transferring money back and forth and look at the charges that you're getting. There may be ways to save money on all of that. All right, so mobile phones, thankfully in the UK, I think have progressed much farther than they have in some other countries. So you can sign up to a mobile phone pretty easily. You can choose a what we call here pay as you go or a contract. As a pay-as-you-go customer, you don't have to show any credit history. You can just pick up a SIM card or buy a handset and activate it. But it does mean that you have to keep an eye on the credit. So you may top up your mobile phone for 20 or 30 pounds. And as you go through messaging and calling, making use of your phone, that money drains away and you have to add up again. So a bit like a student Oyster card. If you sign up to a contract, you will get better rates, but you will have to show credit. And contracts typically are for 12 months, but they could be up to 3 years, depending on what you want. You get a lot more flexibility with a contract and often some incentives for signing up as well. So some of our students choose never to get a UK mobile phone. They just use Wi-Fi and apps like WhatsApp in order to communicate. It does make it tricky if you don't have a UK mobile phone to use services like Deliveroo and Uber. So something to think about. How will you use your mobile phone while you're here, and what do you hope it will do? Okay, really importantly is to find time to register with the National Health Service, and I'm going to pass over to Elizabeth for this part.
So the National Health Service, as the name indicates, is the UK's health service that is available to everyone who is a resident of the UK. So if you're on a student visa, this applies to you, or if you're a UK national, this applies to you, and you'll already be familiar with the NHS. If you are a study abroad student, you still should register with a GP, but I'll talk a little bit in a minute about sort of the slight differences between how you can access healthcare as a degree student versus a study abroad student. But first of all, what is a GP? GP is short for general practitioner, so that's sort of your regular doctor. It's the first port of call in many instances in the UK for any sort of health concern. So it's really important that you register with a GP as soon as possible. Of course, if you're not registered, you can always register at any time. There's not a limit on when you can register, but it's so much easier to just be able to access the doctor as soon as you get sick and not have to register and delay getting care. So I always recommend doing it now, hopefully while you feel healthy, because it's easier to figure out registering when you're not like running a fever or something like that. So how do you register with a GP? The easiest way is to use the link that we have at the bottom of the page there to locate your closest doctor's surgery office. So if you don't have access to that link, even if you just Google NHS Find My GP, then it will pop up. You can type in your postcode. I always recommend using the postcode that you live at, because then if you're at home sick, you're going to the closest one to you. We also do have a list of GP offices that are close to campus on our website, so you can take a look at that as well. And when you use that service to find GPs close to you, it will show you which ones are accepting patients. So you can have a browse through those and just choose whichever one looks most convenient or most suitable to your needs and register with them online. It's a really simple process. It doesn't really take more than 5 or 10 minutes. So absolutely do it as soon as possible so that you can access those services when you need them. As I said, that applies to both degree students and study abroad students. If you're a study abroad student, the only difference is that you'll be registering as a private patient instead of as an NHS patient. So I can go ahead and talk a little bit more about working in the UK. I will just make a note about healthcare services, about emergency services, just so everyone's aware. Emergency services are available at the point of need, regardless of whether you can access the NHS or not. So just keep that in mind if you do end up in a tight spot. Working in the UK, though, if you're planning on working in the UK, you'll need to apply for a national insurance number. That's your tax number, and you just have to have it enabled to enable you to be employed. Any future employer will ask you for your national insurance number when you sign a contract, and they can't pay you without it, so it's important to get it. It's very easy to apply for. Again, takes 5 or 10 minutes to do, probably even less. It's very simple. And the only thing to keep in mind with working in the UK is that on a student route visa, you're only permitted to work 20 hours per week during term time. So during the summer, if you're not enrolled in classes, you can work full time, or in term breaks like between Christmas and New Year's, that kind of thing. Totally fine to work full time. But while you're in classes, only 20 hours per week, because it's important that while you're on a student route visa, your primary focus is your studies. If you're a study abroad student, you are unfortunately not allowed to work in the UK. That's just because you're here on a visitor visa instead of on a student route visa. So you don't have right to work in the UK. For everyone else, you can work. And if you have any questions, I just want to reference back to our careers team. Have a chat with them, because they can help you find part-time employment or employment that'll help boost your resume for after you graduate.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. So I just wanted to run quickly through your visa obligations as somebody on a student route visa. Of course, the first one applies to students who are visiting with us as well. You should be attending all of your classes. If you can't make it to class, again, let us know. You can email us at studentaffairs@richmond.ac.uk, but we'd also encourage you to email your faculty members to let them know that you're unwell, and you'll be getting in touch with them about makeup work. We do hope that you will keep us up to date with your contact details, and that's really easy to do now on our Rio student portal. If you change your term time address, you can go in and update that. If you are unsure how to do that, come and see us in the Student Hub and let us know what your new address is. Work is only available to you on a student visa within the constraints of what Elizabeth just mentioned. So if you are a visiting student with us just for one term on a visitor visa, you do not have the right to work. If you're a student on a student route visa, which means you're coming to us for either a year or longer to complete a bachelor's course, you have the right to work 20 hours per week during term time, which is generally September to December and January to the first week of May, and then full time outside of term time. So summers for Richmond students are quite long, and you could actually gain some really valuable work experience over the summer in London if that's something you want to do. If you do want to travel outside of the UK during term time, we ask that you do that only at times when you have a term break. So every semester during regular term time, you have a fall break or a spring break. Of course, you can travel during those times. If you find yourself needing to travel for an emergency during term time in which you would miss classes, we ask that you contact us and let us know. We encourage students to attend every class, and if you're going to miss, we'd like to know your reasons why and how we can support you. Okay, so a few things about British culture we thought it might be interesting for you to hear. And Elizabeth and I are obviously not from the UK. We usually have our colleague Ian, who is from the UK, present these, but maybe it's more interesting to hear it from somebody who's seeing it maybe closer through your eyes. So I'll do the first two and then I'll hand over to Elizabeth. The first one up there at the top is a picture, of course, of people queuing. I think you only have to arrive at Heathrow Airport to experience this. You don't have to come all the way into London. British people love to queue. They love standing in a line. And they will grumble about it, but inside, I know they're smiling. I think the British queue is a really interesting social phenomenon because you can see that people separate themselves in a symmetrical way, and they don't often chat in a queue. They just stand and wait, mostly with a lot of patience. But if you decide to get in front of somebody in a queue and they feel that you shouldn't be doing that, they will tell you. So it's really important to keep the standards that they have set. If you want to see this full on, the best place to watch it is when you come out of Gunnersbury Station in the morning. There is a bus that takes people who work at Sky TV to their offices. They will line up, rain or shine, in a symmetrical queue all the way down the street. So it's not a huddle of people, but it is a queue, and the people who are first will get on the bus first, and the people who are last will wait their turn. So have a think about that next time you're waiting at a bus stop or a train station or at the post office. One of the things I really love about British culture, and I have warmed to this over my years in London, is the phenomenon of the neighborhood pub. So here in London, people have much smaller places to live, but they're still quite social. So instead of having a party in your living room, which you may not be able to do if you're living in a studio, you plan to meet your friends at the local pub. And it has become a bit of a living room for everyone. In neighborhood pubs that are less urban, there tend to be the same sort of people week in and week out. So the people that run the pubs will know them and they'll say, "Hey, John, how you doing? Tell me about, how's your mother's health? Did you go to visit her this weekend?" They will know lots of things about you. So it is quite a social space and it's very friendly. The thing that I also really love about pubs in London is that they're very inclusive. You will see older people, you will see younger people, you'll see children up to a certain hour of the day. You'll see lots of dogs and pets. They invite everybody in, and they tend to be very welcoming. So find out what your local pub is. Ours here at Chiswick Park is just across the road from Gunnersbury Station. So we definitely want to visit that one and take it in. And I'll hand over to Elizabeth.
So I think hopefully what you've already experienced with London is its culture from a sort of just people perspective. Obviously, culture is all around you everywhere you travel. It's in the way that we eat our food. It's in the way that we just move through our day. And London in particular has so much arts and sports and entertainment, just masses of everything you want to experience, because it's such an international city. The demographics of London are just so varied, and there is a stage or a venue or a platform for just about everything. So there are a couple photos in there in that collage in the top right-hand corner, and maybe you recognize some of the faces there. But London really is a hot spot for just everything that you could possibly get involved in. So if you have questions about things that you already are interested in that you want to get stuck into while you're here, then come ask us. We can either point you in the right direction or we can tell you who to talk to who will have the best recommendations because just like London, our Richmond community is very, very diverse. To the point, of course, where our motto is unity and diversity. So it's something that as a campus community, we really value. And we hope that you'll get involved in the overall diversity and different offerings of culture in London too. If there's something that you're maybe curious about trying, that's maybe not something that you've done before, this could also be a really great opportunity to get involved in something new. Because London has so much going on, there is an opportunity to try things that you've never experienced before, and you can always try something once, and maybe you'll love it. And that's the sort of the fun of living in such a big city that has so much to offer. Um, then, of course, underneath that, slightly less exciting, but definitely just as ubiquitous, is the London weather. It is rainy. It might be rainy right now as you're joining us. London drizzle is something you will definitely experience. The good news, if you're joining us in spring, is that the weather will get progressively better. For those of us who join us in the fall, unfortunately means that the weather gets progressively worse as we descend into winter. But if you're watching with us now, it is getting sunnier every day. That doesn't mean that you should count on it not raining because the weather can change really quickly. But I think that the interesting cultural aspect of the weather in London is that everyone just kind of gets on with it. Maybe where you grew up, if it rains less frequently, you're used to just, sort of going home and just staying inside and avoiding the rain. In London, because it happens so often, you just learn to deal with it. And you will find that just because everyone's dealing with it doesn't mean they won't complain about it. It is often a topic of conversation. So if you combine a couple of these cultural aspects on this slide, you could go to the pub and you could talk about the weather, and you would be having a very British moment for yourself there. Of course, that being said, if you do struggle with the rain, that's something that you can absolutely come and talk to us about in the Student Hub. I am personally from a sunny climate. I know Allison is as well. So coping with the weather isn't always something that comes naturally. So if you're looking for tips of how to stay dry or just how to keep your mood sort of lifted instead of getting bogged down by the rain, come and have a chat with us, and we'll be happy to help.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I mentioned most of these already, but resources on campus available to you at any time. Immigration support and guidance, which you can get from our helpful UKVI compliance team. Advice about banking, transport, and student discounts. The student support team are very happy to help with that, but equally, our student hub assistant, who sits right at the front of the student hub, may be the best person to talk through some of this. We do offer comprehensive health and well-being assistance, and Elizabeth mentioned her colleagues that work alongside other colleagues in student affairs and registry, IT, and finance. We offer careers and employability support, and we are really dedicated to helping you start to think about where you might end up or what you might pursue as far as careers and employability. And just to highlight, that is open to everyone, whether you're a visiting student here just for a short period of time or a degree student completing a degree with us. We do take lots of general inquiries about registration, finance, and other bits of life in London in the Student Hub. So if you have a question, no matter how big or how small, we will certainly try to help. In the library, also here at the Chiswick campus, you will find resources for study. You'll find short and long-term book loans. So if you have a textbook for your course, you can always find that in the library. If you have forgotten your laptop or maybe spilled some coffee on your laptop, which does happen from time to time, you can borrow one in the library. And there is also some dedicated silent study space for students really needing to get their heads down and get to work. As I mentioned, you can always keep up to date with us through our weekly newsletters. These come out in your Outlook email every Monday. They're called This Week at Richmond. Alongside that, we have a calendar of events and activities happening throughout the term at students.richmond.ac.uk. And occasionally we'll ask you to sign up for these events and activities through our store, which is at store.richmond.ac.uk. Again, we love questions. Chances are the question you have is the question that many other students have. So come in and ask us your question. You can always email us outside of hours too, and we'll pick those up in the morning. Do follow us on Instagram if you can. You'll probably find some photos of yourself in there at some point doing activities or other events here on campus. So yeah, I think that's it from us. Thank you. I'm just going to stop our recording.